So next up is The Casual Vacancy by J.K. Rowling. It's her first adult novel, much awaited, been kept under a shroud of secrecy for quite a while. Mary, do you want to explain a little bit more about it?
Sure. It is a very long book with a lot of characters, but basically it's all about one small, very English town and everyone who lives there. And it's very British, I think.
Especially for you.
Yeah,
it seemed very
British,
yeah.
but I really, really liked it. I did.
And Disha, what did you think about it?
Well, at the beginning, I thought it was a really slow start and there was too many characters. But then when I got into it, I actually started to enjoy it. And there was one plot line in particular that I really enjoyed, and it really affects you at the end. And
which one was that?
That was the girl Crystal, whose mum's a drug addict, and she's
baby brother.
This baby brother, and it's just really sad. I don't want to ruin it, but I think it's clever that J.K. Rowling is highlighting the issues of today. So
definitely,
that's a good. It's a good.
I know, Nikki, you had a different opinion on it.
I like the fact that she's highlighting like what it's like in like the average council estate and all that kind of stuff. But I think really she's just trying too hard to be edgy. And
she's gone the opposite direction, hasn't she?
Because I'm really the Harry Potter generation.
Harry Potter.
I grew up reading it, and I got the Hogwarts Express Lego set for Christmas.
Oh, jealous!
I know, it's amazing. Just generally, this book, I was just sitting there like, why are you doing this? It's just,
She actually said that because people were asking her, do you feel the pressure of, doing your first adult novel, with all your fans loving Harry Potter? And she goes, you know what, I really have nothing to prove now.
Yeah,
I'm just doing what I want to write. She just wrote this for the hell of it, for the fun of it. And it seems to me like she's basically writing a lot about her own personal experiences, totally opposite to Harry Potter. Yeah. And there's a lot of sadness in this book. You do feel quite sad when you're reading it. There's not exactly any high points, are there? It's the themes are a lot about class. I mean, she pretty much covers every single kind of negative theme that we experience in modern day society. Class division, racism, sexual relationships, sexual problems, all sorts, the drug addiction, prostitution. I mean, literally, if you come up with one negative thing, it will be in that book.
Yeah. But I think it's all about class and kind of how all of that intersects with it. And I think it's interesting to kind of scratch the surface below the average town and be like, all of these issues are in, even these really idyllic looking towns. Mm. And, I didn't even expect to like the book. I was kind of the opposite of you because I loved Harry Potter and I'm like, I'm sure it'll be an okay book, but whatever. But it was so much more like political without being overtly political than I expected. And it was so much more interesting than I expected. And
Disha, did you like the whole idea of the casual vacancy of the the council parish and everyone fighting over this position?
I mean, it's typical of little towns, isn't it? Because I'm from a little town, so it is a very typical,
Because it starts off with the premise of this guy who had a position at the local parish council and he dies. And it starts off with all the little gossiping village people talking about the death of this person and how they're all going to compete for that seat. And you don't really start off liking this town at all because rather than being quite upset about the guy, they're actually
more bothered about who's going to take over.
Exactly.
But that's so realistic.
That's life, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. When someone dies, everyone's like,
only for themselves. Yeah, it's all gossip.
She probably got that quite right,
what?
People's human nature.
Definitely. Isn't she from the people where she grew up? She really hated it.
Yeah.
And the people from where she grew up take that book as an insult, apparently, because they say it's like she's using her background and they got really insulted by it.
Well, maybe they shouldn't have been so
You do write from experience, though, so yeah.
Yeah, in the book, the whole anti-benefits culture was really, really strident. And I saw her interviewed on The Daily Show, and she was talking about how much she appreciates the government for giving her that chance. And he was like, "Well, you're like the best investment that they've ever made. Look how much you pay in taxes from Harry Potter." And she's like, "Yeah, it's important." And that society that we give people a chance to prove themselves is so important, and I think that is my favourite thing that she
comes
did
across
in the book.
so much in the book without being I didn't feel slapped in the face with it. It was a story above all else. It was a book about people. It was interesting. I mean, but then it was just kind of when you finished it, you kind of realized how important class was in that, and the benefits and the council estate, and I'm very socially liberal and everything, but I have to think that it might maybe, hopefully begin to change someone's opinion if they're
Yeah.
not.
Well, I mean, like,
Because you get to love so many of the characters and
You
to see
can
what
only
happens
love
to them.
someone
and
in the right
everything.
direction. It's just
there you
giving them
go.
a chance.
Crystal's the character whose mum's a drug addict, but she's had to grow up, really quickly compared to someone who's had, the privileges, who's very spoiled, like one of the guys
was the
who's very
only
spoiled.
good
She was
teenage
and
girl.
she's so
Teenage person in that
dismissed
movie.
by everyone in that book.
It will be a
Everyone's like,
movie.
oh, you're going to be a prostitute like your mum, you're going to be a drug addict like your mum, and she's just trying to like get on with school and rowing and taking care of her baby brother, and it's so sad what happens.
Don't
to
you
her.
find it interesting how she can paint characters from two perspectives?
Yeah.
The outside perspective and then the perspective
within.
yeah. Like you'll see how people perceive a certain character and then you'll hear their innermost thoughts and they'll be totally different.
I was really impressed with the characters from this because honestly, I get confused. Like I read a lot and I get confused, and there are a lot of characters. I have to end up going back and being like, which one's this?
How many characters were there in this
So
book?
many.
So
but
many.
I
But you
kept
did
them all straight.
Yeah.
I don't know how I.
No, but at the beginning it was a bit confusing because it was just straight into this, and then it's only towards middle that I began to feel like, oh, okay, and now I'm kind of,
See, I did
liking
find myself
some
throughout the book
characters.
thinking, like, okay, so they're the mum of that guy, and then that guy's
It
friends
takes a
with
while.
that guy.
But then you
They're
just-
all linked.
I was
Who are
amazed
these
when I got
people?
it. Usually I need like a family tree or something.
But it's good how they're all linked, though, isn't it? The hot girl who they fancied at school is then
The one from
daughter
London.
of the social worker who looks
Yeah.
after Crystal's family,
Well,
who's
it's
going
so
out
small
with the
town,
solicitor.
It's, everyone knows everyone, everyone relates to
Yeah.
everyone, everyone works with everyone. And
What did you think about the whole idea? Do you think it was realistic about the idea that everyone's fighting for the council seat, mainly because they don't want this estate, which is just bordering their town. They don't want this estate to be part of their town anymore. They want to get rid of it and give it to a neighbouring town.
Definitely realistic.
Because they're really like into their class and having only people of a certain class in their town and in their schools and using their facilities and things like that. What did you think about that whole idea? Because that's actually what the whole thing was centred around.
Middle class London is essentially that, or middle class England is essentially that.
It reminded me of Midsummer Murders a little bit, like the whole feel of it, the way they, the small-minded type of characters.
You know those villages that with the parish hall and stuff.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen Kate Middleton's village from where she's from?
No.
It reminds me of that.
Really?
It's a bit like
Yeah.
St Andrews, where she went to school,
Yeah,
to be
well,
honest.
there you
I
go.
think I would go mad in one of these towns. Can you imagine the gossip that would go on about you? You could be the nicest person in the world and they
They'd
gossip
still be like,
about
oh,
you.
did you see what
something.
she wore? What her daughter was doing?
I know. And the guy who died, I mean, he was a really nice guy.
He's the
Yeah.
only
And they-
like
but they
good
were-
character in the entire book.
Oh,
and he
Crystal.
died. And he
Yeah,
died.
but even Crystal has that. Like, he's the only one that is just
Out,
good.
wanted to help.
He's just so good, and everyone else is horrible.
Don't you find it amazing how she really just manages to understand the social condition? Like, she just gets how people tick. Like, she goes... I mean, there's, for instance, this one woman that really does make me laugh in it, the really coarse one, who basically watches music videos of her daughter's favourite band.
Oh, she
and
falls
she
in love
starts,
with the boy
she
band.
starts
Oh, yeah.
getting really sexually frustrated and she just wants...
Housewife.
And she desperately wants to go and see them in concert and she pretends that she just wants to accompany her daughter.
I felt sorry for her when that happened, when the daughter's friend phoned and said, oh, please, could you give her your ticket? I was like, no.
I would have been like, no,
Like, no, I
way.
paid for it. No.
I just thought those characters were great, but anyway, we've got to wrap this up. So,
Okay.
ratings out of 10, what do you think?
Maybe an 8.5.
Ooh, you
have?
liked it then.
I liked it a lot.
7, only because the beginning was a bit slow, but it was a good book. Apart from that, yeah.
I'll go 6.5. I'll be generous.
I'll give it an 8 actually. I was pleasantly surprised. I really did enjoy it actually. So that is the Casual Vacancy by J.K. Rowling.